as promised, Ron DeSantis has a new interesting ad out. I said Krystal needs to watch it, so we're gonna watch it together
Yeah,
live.
I've tried to avoid seeing it until this moment.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of it, so you will all see her live reaction. Let's take a listen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking.
Today's training evolution, dogfighting, taking on the corporate media.
The rules of engagement are as follows. Number 1, don't fire unless fired upon, but when they fire, you fire back with overwhelming force. Does it say that in the bill? I'm asking you to tell me what's in the bill. Number 2, never ever back down from a fight.
If I could complete the question, though.
So you're going to give a speech or ask a question? Number 3, don't accept their narrative. It's wrong. It's a fake narrative. I just disabused you of the narrative, and you don't care about the facts. It's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's turn up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Number 1 seems to have taken a page out of Cringe's book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a great reference.
This is a major Cringshaw move. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
you know what it actually, I got
to his credit, he did serve in the military, you know, got to say that. Like, he was a JAG officer, worked for the Navy SEALs, so, you know, whatever.
I saw him saying, like, he said it was his wife's idea.
Should never say that.
Don't say that.
Yeah, you can't blame
Don't say
her.
that.
Also, I think she's suffering. She has, like, breast cancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wish her all the best.
Yeah. Right.
I had actually a more throwback reaction to it than Crenshaw. Do you remember when Tim Pawlenty, who was like the most boring, generic person who's ever walked the face of the earth, I don't know if you remember this, he ran for president.
He was the first person to announce.
His opening video, it was produced by Michael Bay. It was like explosions, and clearly they were like trying really hard to make it like Tim Pawlenty was T-Paw, was super excited and cool and a badass and whatever. And meanwhile, he's like the most meek, mild-mannered person that you possibly can imagine. I think it also speaks to, I mean, the whole thing there's no policy position. It's just like, I'm a fighter. I'm going to yell at the press and take on the corporate media, which kind of does get to the heart of like the Republican Party at its core now is more about an aesthetic than it is about anything else.
So even that I don't even mind. I just don't think the aesthetic was very good. I mean, and that's really my problem with it is I'm like, dude, this is just cringe. Like, you're just not this guy.
I also feel like, yeah, you're not this guy, number 1. Number 2, it definitely reeks of like drinking your own Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Like you've kind of convinced yourself that you're this like cool badass character, but that's not how you actually are.
I think they would have been better off letting supporters make like a meme video like that, right? Because DeSantis is his problem.
Like the Dark Brandon stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just a little bit too much of still an old school politician. It comes through in the way that he speaks. It even comes through whenever he's like owning the corporate media. It's not Trump-esque in the way that it's done it. And this is part of the reason why I like him, because why people like him, because they're like, oh, well, he's like a mix between like a Trumpist figure and like an older school politician. But then he tries to make himself like a celeb or something. It's just not, it just doesn't work.
This is also why, and we're getting like way too many layers deep on this stupid ass thing, but this actually does kind of encapsulate why I'm so skeptical that he could beat Trump, because he's just like a pale carbon copy of Trump. Like trying to, Kyle always points out he's clearly like studied Trump's mannerisms and tries to replicate, you know, the Trumpian, like whatever things he does. You see it very studied and very coached in kind of the same way. I mean, you see this whole crop of Democratic candidates who have emulated Obama. Pete Buttigieg, Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke. They all studied his cadence and his way of delivering speeches and some of his mannerisms. And they just look like, you know, they're an imitation. They're not the original. They'll never do it as well or with as great an effect as Barack Obama did. So it has some of those vibes too.
I completely agree. And you know, this just happened right before we were filming. Yesterday, DeSantis was giving a speech and he's like, I'm sick of seeing him on Fauci. He says, I think he's gonna retire. Someone needs to grab that little elf and chuck him across the Potomac. Now, I am not going to defend the honor of Dr. Fauci. I do think he is elfish in nature and, chucking him across the Potomac. Wouldn't mind seeing it. That being said, this doesn't work. Like, it's not him.
No.
He doesn't speak
He's
that way.
trying to play a part.
He's trying to play a part, and it's all, I just think for DeSantis, he could just say, good riddance, and people would have cheered, right? It's like, why the histrionics? Like, it's just not you.
If
Trump said that, I'd be like, oh, that's funny. But with
trying
DeSantis,
to do way too much.
it's just...
Also, I mean, Trump is a legitimately funny person.
Yeah,
like he's actually comedic and funny, and that is it's very hard to be funny. It's very unusual to be funny.
Right.
And so things that he can pull off, and the sort of like, he does a lot of physical comedy and stuff like that. I mean, it just like Ron DeSantis is not that guy. So, yeah.
Everyone, you're learning a very clear lesson in the it factor. So you know it when you see it. That's all I'm going to say. So sorry, Ron. Don't do it again.
Yeah, this ain't it.
All right. We'll see you later.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.